believe it's June 6th. I'm just doing my morning self-ram. Hi, puppy. Puppy heard my voice, came into the room, jumped up on the bed. Saline. Salt. Lovely to taste salt first thing in the morning. Well, not first thing for me. I've been up for a little bit. But I'm still not able to have meds. So I need to do the antiemetic. Big fancy name for a anti-nausea med. And I just slowly let it go in. In about somewhere between 10 to 20 minutes, I'll be able to take my first thing in the morning pills. I think today I'm going to have to ask the caregiver to do some magnesium on my legs. Okay, to the med. Now just doing some saline to flush the line. Close it up. Put it back. Okay. So I've been doing some other video and just going to use this as a little bit of an introduction for a video that I've mostly already done. And it's addressing the question of how do you protect your yard and yourself and your family against ticks. So I hope if you don't know something that you'll learn. How do I say this? I hope that if you don't know anything about ticks, that you'll learn something today, that you will find you are not powerless against this force of nature. Traveling, went to New York, traveled to Ontario with my brother. That's when a friend took me to Indiana, and we went canoeing on the Wabash River. This was the most beautiful, ceremonial, spiritual awakening, mind-opening, blowing time of life. I was 17. This was October. I would turn 18 in December. And I had just finished high school. Not only had I finished high school, I had a year of college under my belt already. I did a program called Running Start, where if you pass the college entrance exam, you're welcome to take your last year, or last couple of years if you do that. I didn't know about it the first year I was here. And I loved that program. And I love my professors, and I was able to keep my love of learning because I was able to do that. I only had a couple of really good teachers here and there in high school, both in New York and in Washington. So I moved. I had lived in... Actually, yes, I have. Thank you. I have taken my meds. We have to have reminders, otherwise all the times and things would just go out of our minds. But so I went to, I had this wonderful trip. We were canoeing down the Wabash River as a protest and as a shout out to the local area to say that this is your water and your water is your life. You have factories right up against this river that have their big old oval metal pipes that empty out right into the river. Right into the river. And at the time, in 1998, the Wabash River was the 9th most polluted river in the U.S. So we were trying to just say, you know, what you put into your water, and that means your sink, your kitchen sink, your bath, what you put into your water will go into the river. And it's a hard lesson to take in, especially when you've never been taught anything about this before. And we came across many people who didn't know the connection between their kitchen sinks and the rivers around them. So we had a lovely joining with the community. People came out. So I was traveling with a man named Red Spider, Steve McCullough. He is a chief of a local Lakota tribe to him. And he's such a wonderful man. His smile. I just remember canoeing past him, and then that little bugger got out. I'm working with my hands and, you know, yeah, we're doing it the old-fashioned way. He gets out a little battery, like a motor thing, and attaches it to the back of his canoe, and just and suddenly my friend and I are looking, going, you bugger! But that's what it was. We had laughter, we had tears, we had big realizations, and we had a lot of ceremonies to try and just write a little bit of correct, as in what had happened to that poor water. And so when I came off the river, and I felt like, what's going on? I was wearing a skirt, and I could feel something wasn't right with my leg. Like, nothing was hot, itchy. It felt weird. And so I went into the bathroom, lifted my skirt up, and I had these 2 big red ring rashes growing out. One out of the inside of my thigh, one that was behind my left knee. And they were 2 separate rings that met each other along the way. I have no idea when the ticks bit me, but I do know that from the area that I was in and from the rashes that I got, those were most likely deer ticks, also known as the Ixodes scalpularis. Hope I pronounced that right. And I was infected with not only what we commonly call Lyme disease or borreliosis. I was also diagnosed with babesiosis, which is, they call it the American malaria. And I was diagnosed at the time with possible ehrlichiosis. When you look at the area that I was in, you see the possible pathogens that are in that area, and the doctor was trying to suss out and make sense of what I was telling him, because by the time I made it to this doctor, it was 2001. 3 years went by, so there's a whole bunch of nausea. There was a whole bunch of pain everywhere, whole bunch of fatigue that was just crushing. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to, I felt so detached. And then finally, what I did want to do was research and go, what is going on? And like anybody else would, I looked up my symptoms and I started asking people questions. And of course, I would doubt when it was just somebody I had no idea who they were. But the more that I talked with people who were on a forum for people who had a complex chronic illness, and just to qualify that, complex means involving more than one system. So I had my GI system, my digestion, and then I had my nervous system. Those two already were going a bit crazy. So complex. Chronic is simply, well, it used to be for over a year that you've had the symptoms, and I fit that then. I think some people now just say if it's over 6 months, because we're trying to figure out now with COVID when to call someone who has been having symptoms for months. When is it the chronic part? When is it the when has it gone to a different stage, I guess is the best way. I don't know if COVID has the stages the way Borrelia and syphilis do, but I do know that there's a lot of similarities to those two illnesses, and when they're in their long haul or chronic phase, whatever you want to call it, I really don't care. Could be long haul Lyme. If it will help, if it will get research done, whereas before, it's sad, but medical people were not believing what other medical people were telling them. That they saw this subset of patients that did not get better with traditional treatment. And what should we do for these patients? So, okay, I have probably, well, most definitely limited time before my caregiver and Matt come back. So what I wanted to address was those of you who have not seen a tick at all before, like if you're kind of going, wait, what's that? Like, what does it even look like? I'm going to do a blog that gets a lot more in detail, and all of these images that I have here I will put on the site. But I just did want to show, hopefully you can see this entire thing. I'll hold it kind of up. As a larva, in the first year of this deer tick's life, it's going to be a larva, and a very, very, very small. Larvae are about the size of a grain of sand. You're not going to see them most likely with your naked eye. So what are you going to do? I'll let you know in a moment. From eggs to larva to, in the second year, or just in the, basically after they have a blood meal, they molt into the next phase. You know, some aren't perfectly into the whole cycle like they'll show. It's a good average of what is happening. So for a lot of the time, it's going to be very, very, very small. And the nymph is not much bigger. So we're looking at deer ticks, the very top row. This is a dime blown up to give you an idea of what the nymph, the larva, the adult male and adult female look like. Females are always going to be a little bit bigger. In nature, that's just kind of how it is. She's got to take care of the babies. And these ones actually, this is a good basic chart. Well, a list. This is a good basic list of the ticks that are going to be around and what they might generally look like. They have bodies that kind of resemble a raisin of varying sizes, and in their first phase of life they're going to have 6 legs as a larva, and then once they become a nymph, then they get all 8 legs. And those top legs, those top 2, they have carbon dioxide sensors on the very tip. That's how they can tell a mammal is going by. When we exhale, we have carbon dioxide. So that's what they look like. I will, on the website, give you an idea of, okay, on the map, pick out where you live, and I'll tell you about which ticks to be careful of and what are the pathogens that they are most known to carry in your area. Doesn't mean that they don't have other ones. So, caveat, I hope, heard. So I'm going to go through, there are 9 ticks to get to know, and it's really easily broken up to 2 different groups. There's hard body ticks, there are soft body ticks, and there are a lot of similarities. If you saw that, there's like, they have a little shield on their back. A lot of them have that. But I did try to make a longer me rambling about the ticks. Again, I don't want to become like too much of a science website. These facts are out there ready to be read by many people. And for example, like the recommendations for taking care when you're going to go into tick habitat, which is when you're going to go outside, the recommendations are the same. So it doesn't become a quagmire, who do I believe out of these doctors, who one is telling me it's a simple thing, the other one is telling me it's not so simple. And you know what? My body, my gut is telling me that the doctor who says it's not so simple is right. And so when I did finally follow those doctors, their advice, I got out of a wheelchair. I was able to stop having seizures. I was partially paralyzed on my left side from my hip down. That's how I had to use the wheelchair. And slowly I regained that back. It was like my body it was slowly coming back to me until I hit a really big snag in treatment. And instead of having good gains, I then smashed down to a terrible crash with a lot of symptoms. So, but that's kind of, it's what happens. You go up and down. So, if you have concerns about keeping your yard tick-free, or at least as tick-free as possible, there are quite a few things that you can do for your yard. Number one, try to keep your yard as clean and as manicured as possible. Mow your lawn, trim your bushes. If you're going to go walking in the area, it is best that it look like a beautifully kept place. Rake up all the leaves. Clean up all of the piles. Piles is where mice will go. And where mice go, ticks will go. Squirrels, rabbits, all of these little mammals, the little ticks like. They don't. I would imagine being a tiny little thing and looking up and going, like human size, that would look a little daunting to me, but hey, I'm not most ticks, and some ticks are actually blind, so it doesn't really even matter. They don't see. So you make your yard as clean as possible. You can make a barrier. Now, there's several ways you can do this. Cedar wood in particular is a great barrier because you can do this little layer of cedar wood chips around like your flowers, around your nicely manicured grass, around any big bushes that you might have but that you walk by. Just sort of use them as to outline your walking path. Think of it that way, or to just outline the sides of your garden. Could also use stones. So if you get rocks, pile them, yes, but like neatly. We're not talking a huge pile, a little barrier between whatever else is out there and your pathway, your front yard, your driveway, what have you. A little row, a barrier of rocks will make the tick, they'll feel forward and too high. They won't bother with that. They'll climb up plants, but they stop at rocks. Thank you, scientists. Okay. So I'm going to do that. Oh, so there are these things called tick tubes, and these are an interesting little concept. You get a PVC tube, get an end so you can close one part, get some cotton, and get some permethrin. Permethrin is a nerve toxin. It is it's harmful to humans, so we have to make sure that we are wearing a mask and gloves and such before we do anything. But if we treat any of our clothes, our shoes, or that little bit of cotton to put inside a tube, and if you put these tubes around your yard and at the edge, like by the street or by the driveway, lead mice, squirrels, maybe even rabbits, lead the little critters away from your home. That way, the one thing you have to worry about that comes in still would only be birds. Birds are the main transporters. They are how ticks fly first class, and they are how ticks have gotten everywhere in the world. And we wonder why we suddenly have an Asian tick over on our East Coast. Thank you to the birds. Okay, so just to finish up the outside area, if you go on a hike and you see that an area is overgrown, avoid it. It's just better. Stay on the marked trails and don't go into tall grass or brush. Stay where it is clearly marked and where you know you'll be safe. When you get home, oh, wait, back that up, mark that out. So we're still out, and I've touched on wearing protective clothing, talked about soaking like pants or shoes, like an old pair of jeans that you're only gonna wear to go out or do gardening in, something like that. Overalls, coveralls, whatever you call them. So either have some treated clothing with paramethrin. Always try to wear, if you're gonna go out on a hike in the woods or something like that, wear light colored clothing, because that way, as other people are looking at you, they will notice a dark reddish brown thing, hopefully, crawling up on a light color clothing, pants. Keep to long sleeves, keep to long pants. I know it's going to be summer and hot, and don't wear sandals in areas that are endemic. It's way too easy for them to just curl up and get in between a toe, and then you don't know about it. Sorry, that wasn't the best of images, but it is a reality. Try not to go barefoot. Or if you do go barefoot for a while, really look at your feet. Check out, how well do you know your body? Do you know where all your freckles are? Would you know if you're going over your body which ones of these were freckles and which ones were possibly something else? Like as a young girl, I was taught to learn what my body looks like, and it is a very handy thing. And as my caregiver said, my mother said, she has looked over my body from the day I was born. So if you have a good parent, yes, they will be looking over you, and they will be like, I don't remember this. Come here, let me just see this. Kids, please, I'm sorry. Deal with what your parents are going to seem strange for a moment. They're going to want to see up close. They just want to make sure that you're okay. So you can use some insect repellent. It works on ticks. I've actually seen where this little tick was crawling around on a table, and a person just wiped a bit of the normal mosquito spray that we would get, but made with essential oils. And the tick, when it got there, was like, ooh, didn't like it, turned around, and so they made another line, and they turned away from that line as well, and they, tried to get out the way that it smelled, I guess, the most clear. So yes, they really don't like the repellents. It really does repel. Please use them and refresh every couple of hours if you're a sweaty person, if you are doing a lot, if you might go into the water, or every 3 hours normally. So there are some that come with, off skin-tastic, things like that. They'll have chemicals in them. You're gonna have to decide what is right for your family. For me, I need the least amount of chemicals to have my body feel balanced, so that's one page. Good, good. When you come inside. All right, this is very simple. Strip. Clothes are in the dryer for at least 10, maybe 20 minutes on high. The ticks can't take the high temperature and the dryness of the dryer. So the dryness, it kills them really quickly. So 10 to 20 minutes. Get yourself into a shower. If you possibly can, get a partner or a parent to come with you so that the water will wash off the things that aren't attached to you, and hopefully parent or partner will notice what isn't getting washed off, and they will help you remove that tick. The places that you want to stay... Hey? The places that you want to pay attention to are behind the knees, the armpit. Thank you. We probably have a delivery. Yep. Sati! Sati, pop, 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 pop. Are you getting annoyed that I haven't introduced you yet? Puppy! I'm the only one home. Alright. Okay. Whew. Walked around and then started sweating and... Okay. Where were we? Hopefully I will remember to introduce her later. She's laying down on the sofa like, okay, I'm a good girl. Okay, anyway. When you've gotten into a shower, hopefully you've gotten a partner or parent so they can check behind your knees, your armpit, your neck, your scalp, behind your ears, your navel, your groin. Nope, not that place. Your groin, your butt, and your back. Pretty much the other places you should be able to do a good glance over yourself. But 4 eyes are always better than one. And definitely, if you have kids, help them. And the really nice thing is that a lot of the different ticks do have sort of a lidocaine, so when they bite, it doesn't hurt. You don't feel it. A lot of the bites, they're so small. It's like a tiny, tiny little needle going into you. And a lot of people report that they don't even know they were bitten because they didn't feel anything. They didn't have a rash like I did, so... all kinds of different possibilities. Just, if you keep watch, you're on your way to spotting anything that happens out of the norm the fastest, and realize, oh hey, you know what? 2 weeks ago, my, let's say, son went on a camping trip. And now he's kind of, he's complaining, tired, not feeling good, and let's go to just get him to the doctor. And I know there's a lot of problems with getting our kids to the doctor, there is equality problems, there is money problem, which is equality problem, class problem. This is something you want to do the normal little visit about. Most of the doctors by now are very well aware of acute borreliosis, Lyme disease. They know to look for the rash, but they know that it won't happen every single time, so that they know to look for different symptoms. And if it starts to hit different systems, borreliosis is definitely something that should be on the checklist for your differential diagnosis. And that is, when you first go into a doctor, they should not have one thing in mind. They should be narrowing it down. And if you're going to research a borreliosis, you also want to research some other tick-borne illnesses, because they all are a lot alike. They hit the nerves, and then all the other systems, it's your hormones can go out of whack, one of your nervous systems, your autonomic nervous system, that deals with all of the automatic things that happen with our bodies: breathing, heart regulation, temperature regulation. I can't regulate my temperature. Like, when I start going hot, cold, it's so unpleasant, and it's hard to get out of those. Okay, if you do see any ticks, first of all, don't panic. You have the upper hand. You hopefully have a pair of tweezers, or if you're watching this, you can go something like chewy.com. I believe there would be other places. There's probably ticktool.com if I remember correctly. But there are these tools that are sold, and there are many different kinds. One that looks like sort of a spoon, so you scoop up the insect or arachnid and get it into this tiny sliver of an opening, so you can pull it up and out cleanly. Others kind of appear like a fork, so you get it in between, like the body would be up here, but this is the mouth parts that are in the body. So you would and lift it all up. You would just go slow. Be steady with your pressure when pulling up. Let the tick release. It will. You just have to keep applying steady pressure upwards, and it will let go. There are a lot of YouTubes that show you exactly this. Please do not go for anything that is like, put a match next to it, or pour nail polish remover on it. Oh, I've heard so many different things, and really all you want to do is get to as close to the skin as possible. Take a grip onto its mouth and pull up so that it finally lets go and realizes it doesn't have a hope in staying in. So it will surrender. You put that into a bag, because there are all kinds of universities and different laboratories that will take that tick for free and test it to see, did it have anything, any pathogens. That is one of the best ways to keep, you could call yourself a citizen scientist then, because you would be helping us to understand just where ticks come from. You would tell the lab where you are, and they would be able to identify that tick. Like, you don't have to do all that on your own. So they would identify it, they would test it to see, is there anything going on? The San Francisco Bay Area Lyme Foundation, full system going on. So, and for all the parents out there, a tick has just bitten your kid. Put this little scenario into your mind, and you're trying to stay calm, because you know some ticks can carry with it lots of danger, and you don't want that danger to come to your child. You watch your child. You watch them very closely. Has anything changed? Has their energy level changed? Has their appetite changed? Has their taste changed? Anything at all? You will notice first. Or depending on how old the kid is, you know, they may notice first. And if your kid comes to you saying, Mom, Dad, something isn't right, please pull your kid down and ask them to explain, and just be quiet and let them tell you how it feels to be in their body. Sometimes they're going to need a little help, so if you could just do very generalized questions. Do you hurt anywhere? Are you tired? How tired are you? You know, just try to help them start the talking, and then as soon as you can, pull back and just listen. Okay, so the one last thing I will say for this is that we have tick tracking apps. This is the other way you can be a great citizen scientist. And we have, if you look on the Play Store, the iStore, Apple Store, whatever this is, smartphone, wherever you go, there are tick trackers. The one that I recommend is the Live Lyme Foundation, so it's LIVLYME Foundation. And I think if you just put Live, L-I-V, and Lyme into your into a search for apps, you will come up with a tick tracker. And it's from the Live Lyme Foundation. This is a young lady who they found out that she had tick-borne infections from a very young age, and the doctors didn't even tell her that she tested positive. So they didn't consider that to be important. Oh, if only they knew now what they know, what they didn't know then. So you can tell the tracker that you found a tick that day. You can take a picture of it, and people can either help you to say, oh yes, that is a tick, and here's where you want to send it. Tick spotters, I believe it is, they will help you identify if you're not sure. So most of the other places, they'll help you identify what kind of tick it is. So it is a simple thing. You have to keep aware. You have to keep looking at your body and notice if anything changes. If you suddenly don't have the energy that you used to, and well, you did go for that hike a couple weeks ago, there's usually a progression that you can find, but usually isn't always. Sometimes some people are just going to come across my videos and they're going to be years deep into their symptoms. They're not going to have any clue as to whether there might have been a tick around. You just have to look where you are and, you know, do you have a lot of ticks around? You know, some places, some states, they call it tick country out there, in the fields and in the forests. If you're not familiar with that kind of language, yay, you're probably more in the cities, but that doesn't mean you're immune either. Remember, birds. I had a friend who was downtown Seattle, and a bird came to her window box garden and dropped a few ticks there, and that's how she was bitten. Crazy stories. I've heard enough to know that we should all be vigilant when we're going outside our doors. These things are very, very small. They don't grow to be all that big. But they could cause such big problems in your life. And if you have a long time between the bites and the finally getting to a doctor, like me, if you have the 8 years in between, and that's finally getting to a doctor not only that diagnoses you but treats you. I had some really great gains, yes, but I also had some fallbacks, and I have a really hard time regulating my diet because I don't have much of an appetite when it comes to meats, vegetables, all the normal foods, and my body's not interested a lot of the time. I have to push myself to at least have some broth, at least have a couple of bites, because food is energy, food is life. And, you know, I know all of those realities. It's just when you've thrown up as much as I have, you wouldn't want food so much either. So I hope, yay, that this was a pretty good little instruction. And like I said, I'm working on a few blogs. I'm working on trying to explain and rationally go over what happened at the Lyme rally. I'm trying to put out a couple of different, it's only not even 3 yet, and I'm looking at some beautiful rainbows on my wall. And I said if I remembered, I could introduce you to a puppy. So I'm just going to pause while I pull this out. Okay, everybody, say hi to my Sati shadow. My beautiful girl who takes off my socks and pants when I need it. Oh, you missed them coming home? Yes, you did. Where's Nan? Look at you looking all pert. This is Sati Shadow. You will see her a lot in the videos.